On the news tonight, bandits, kidnappers now on holiday in Gige. Tinubu government will need IBB Abdulsalam support, Shetima. Dakpo Abiodun Umo Eno rather gets certificate of return. Still on the headlines, NLC satisfied with cash flow, 6 declare pending issues in 2 weeks. NADECO urges DSS to stop anti-handover elements. Going on, ASU declares total indefinite strike in Taraba. 21 firearms recovered as policemen intensify mop-up in Lagos. Finally, on sports. Awoni ready for Nottingham Forest comeback after injury layoff. You are watching the world news from BGI TV Current. I am Morire Rabila Lawal. Now the news in detail. The Minister of Employment and Labour, Chris Ngige, has said that bandits and kidnappers are now on holiday. Ngige claimed that the criminals have gone into hiding following the scarcity of Naira. The minister attributed these to difficulties associated with the Central Bank of Nigeria's CBN Naira redesign policy. Speaking on Wednesday during a program on Channels Television, Ngige argued that the CBN's policy had sound benefit for Nigerians. He, however, acknowledged that the policy caused hardship for Nigerians through the implementation process, which wasn't smooth enough. The policy is not smooth as it is with its implementations. I admitted that, but whether it is good a policy, yes, it is a good policy, he stated. I used to go for elections and I know what I see. There was no cash exchange for votes. It wasn't easy anymore. Kidnappers are on break, they are on strike, so to say, or process or recess. Bandits, they have gone on holidays, he concluded. Going on to the next story. Vice President-elect Senator Kashim Shettima arrived in Minna, the Niger State capital, yesterday and held closed-door meetings with former military head of state General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida and ex-head of state General Abdulsalam Abubakar. Immediately he left IBB and Abdulsalam's houses. Shettima visited the Emir of Minna, Alhaji Umar Farouk Bahago. Shettima said the former Nigerian leaders were stakeholders who are beacons of hope to the nation, and as such, the next administration would continue to tap from the wealth of their experience. The vice president-elect, accompanied by the governor of Niger State, Alhaji Abubakar Sani Bello, on the visits to the 2 former Nigerian leaders, told journalists that the elder statesmen, as stakeholders, have a lot to offer to humanity and the nation, especially on issues that affect the nation. Going to the next story. More governors-elect, including Dakpo Abiodun of Ogun State, Umo Eno of Akwa Ibom, and Diko Rada of Katsina State have received their certificate of return. The governors-elect got their certificate of return from the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) at different events on Thursday. In Ogun State, Dakpo Abiodun and his deputy Noimot Oyedele, alongside 25 out of the 26 members of the state Assembly members-elect, got their certificate of return. The event was held at the state INEC headquarters in Abeokuta. The God-ordained moment I received my certificate of return from INEC as the re-elected executive governor of Ogun State, accepting the people's renewed mandate till 2027, I beg your pardon. It was attended by the state capital, was attended by heads of security agencies, management members of the INEC in the state, and the National Commissioner in charge of Ogun, Ondo and Osun, Professor Kunle Ajayi, among others. At the event, Governor Dakpo promised purposeful leadership and the provision of more critical infrastructure. In Katsina State, it was a similar story with the governor-elect extending hands of fellowship to his opponents. He urged them to bring their ideas to effort and to move the state to greater heights. His mission, he continued, is to build the future of Katsina State in the various sectors of human capital development, such as education, health, and agriculture, internally generated revenue, as well as boosting micro, small, and medium enterprise. Dr. Rada will receive a certificate of return alongside his running mate, Honorable Farouk Jobe, commended the INEC for conducting the most transparent and credible election in the history of Nigeria. The Katsina governor-elect thanked the outgoing governor of the state, Aminu Bello Masari, for leading the state well and leading the APC to victory. Going on to the next story. The Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) has expressed satisfaction with efforts geared towards increasing cash flow around the country following the nationwide scarcity occasioned by the Naira redesign and cash swap policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. As far as our members are concerned nationwide, they are satisfied with a minimum doubt which we want to clear within the next 2 weeks, the NLC President Joe Ajaero said Friday during a live appearance on Channels Television Sunrise Daily. All the banks are not performing the same. Some of the banks are doing relatively better than others. So we want to monitor the activities of some banks who I may not want to mention here, so I don't demarcate them. The CBN last week directed all commercial banks to open for operation on Saturdays and Sundays, adding that the banknotes had been evacuated from its vault to commercial banks across the country. According to the Apex Bank, the directive was part of a coordinated effort to ease the circulation of banknotes of various denominations, with a substantial amount of money in various denominations having been received by the commercial banks for onward circulation to their respective customers. Moving on to the next story. A pro-democracy group, National Democratic Coalition (NADECO), has urged the Department of State Services (DSS) to apprehend individuals bent on disrupting the democratic transition of power from President Muhammadu Buhari to Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is contained in a statement issued by the president of the group, Professor Atilade Adeyo, in Oye Ekiti. We urge the DSS to terminate the undemocratic and unpatriotic activities bent on disrupting the democratic transition of power from President Muhammadu Buhari-led government to President-elect. The nation has just witnessed a peaceful, fairest and freest presidential poll and others that have ushered in the new set of leaders for the next political dispensation in the country. Some enemies of the nation will not allow peace to reign because of their selfishness and greed for power. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, Taraba State University Chapter, has declared a total, comprehensive and indefinite strike action. This follows a permission by the ASU National to the state branch to embark on a strike action to press home its demand and the state government's rebuttal of claims that it is not owing workers' salaries. Arising from a Congress meeting, the union insists that the rationale behind their action is hinged on government's failure to pay earned academic allowances, promotion arrears, fractional payment of salaries to staff, as well as unsettled staff pensions and gratuity scheme. Mr. Samuel Shita, the Taraba State University ASU chairman, noted that other reasons for the industrial action include non-implementation of agreements and perimeter fencing of the institution. From that story, we'll go to the next one coming from Lagos. At least 21 assorted firearms were recovered from non-state actors across Lagos in March, the police command said on Friday. It said it intensified illegal firearms mop-up in line with directive from the Inspector General of Police IG Alkali Usman. Police Commissioner Omonwa Idowu gave the details at his maiden press briefing at the officers' maze in Ikeja, where he also reviewed security operations during the last general elections. According to him, the command adopted the concentric circle law enforcement principle to not only mop up these illegal firearms but track their sources, acknowledging that the illicit firearms in the hands of non-state actors was a challenge to law enforcement. Idowu said the police would not rest until the syndicates behind the proliferation were arrested and prosecuted. He said, "We are doing this to discontinue the identified sources of these firearms. We do arrest, make recoveries, and have coordinated approach in line with the directive of the IGP to mop up illicit firearms within the public space." Going on to the foreign story. Chu Won-won, grandson of former South Korean President Chung Dong-un, visits the May 18 National Cemetery for victims of a pro-democracy uprising against military dictatorship in 1980 in Gwangju on March 31, 2023. The grandson of a South Korean military dictator apologized on March 31st for a massacre committed during his grandfather's reign in the 1980s, a move hailed by victims and analysts as symbolic and significant. The grandson of former South Korean military dictator Cho Dong-hwan apologized Friday for a massacre committed in the 80s, a move hailed by victims, analysts, and symbolic and significant. Cho, 27, became the first member of his family to visit the Gwangju cemetery and say sorry for the 1980 crackdown on a democracy uprising which killed at least about 200 people according to official estimates. And in the world news this hour is a sports story. Taiwo Awoniyi is available for selection again ahead of Nottingham Forest's home fixtures against Wolverhampton Wanderers, according to manager Steve Cooper. Forest will host Wolves at the City Ground on Saturday afternoon. Awoniyi has been missing in action since coping a groin injury in Nottingham Forest's away win against Southampton at the St. Mary's Stadium in January. The Nigerian international recently returned to full training, and Cooper has hinted he will be back in action against Wolves this weekend. Before we call it a wrap on the world news, here come some major headlines. Naira Scarcity, bandit kidnappers now on holiday in Gige. Tinubu government will need IBB Abdulsalam's support, Shetima. Dako Abiodun Umu Eno rather gets certificate of return. NLC is satisfied with cash flow, seeks to clear pending issues in 2 weeks' time. We also brought to you Nadeco urges DSS to stop anti-handover elements. Lastly, on sports, Awoniyi ready for Nottingham's game against Wolverhampton Wanderers after lifting up from injury. For more updates on YouTube, our handle is BGI TV Current. Kindly subscribe and click on the notification bell, select option all to access our broadcast. For advert placement of your goods and services, coverage of events and functions, please dial the phone number streaming on your screen for advert placements only. Jumat Mufida to all faithful Muslims all around the world, and still Ramadan Mubarak. I am Morire Rabila Lawa. Good evening.
Oh, na, 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 na. If you want to know what's going on in city, or you want to listen to the latest news and gist, no stress, oh, just tune to BGI TV. BGI TV, you're one in a million.